Welcome to another episode of Life and Whiskey. As always, I'm Jordan, and today we are going to look at Knob Creek Rye. I haven't even opened this bottle yet. It is sitting at 100 proof, 50% ABV. It is a Beam Suntory product, just like their bourbon. It says small batch on there. I don't know about that. It says it won the International Wine and Spirit Competition Quality Award in 2016. Outstanding rating, world's best rye. I don't know if I believe that one. Distilled and bottled by Knob Creek Distilling Company, Claremont, Kentucky. So, it is not an MGP product that's in this bottle. It is their own product. Boy, that wax. There's that. Kind of wish I had opened this earlier because that's not awesome. But that's okay. Trials and tribulations of life, live on camera. Let's see what this is. Now, this is kind of interesting because Knob Creek's one of my brother's favorite bourbons. Although I think I'm going to try and change his opinion of that on our next hunt together. And I'm going to bring a bottle of that Long Branch. See if I can convince him that that's better. Because it's a little bit cheaper. So, Knob Creek, while I'm playing with all this junk, I know I haven't even looked at the camera hardly. I can pick this up for $30.29. And they do make a single barrel rye, which is a fair bit more expensive, and so I have not gone and picked up one of those yet. But for now, let's see what we got here. And since this is not an MGP product, we will get a little bit different flavor profile as well as the nose. So the entire whiskey profile is different, which is nice, right? So I talked about that in the last video. So again, we got this for $30.29. Knob Creek Rye, 100 proof. Kind of nice to see stuff a little bit in the higher proofs as well. Yeah. Okay, so sorry for all that putzing. Here we go. Very, very similar to the Rittenhouse Rye, actually. High proof ethanol is almost non-existent on the nose, which is very, very interesting. I get vanilla and herbal, a little bit of eucalyptus, so nothing out of the realm of normal there for rye. Hint of barrel. I mean oak. You get the oak in there, like fresh oak, not charred. A little caramel. Kind of a floral, that floral herbal quality to it. I really like it. There's a little bit of a sweet overtone in there too. It has a very nice nose, but the nose is greatly muted from what you would expect. It doesn't really leap out of the glass at you. That, like I said, the ethanol is really, really tamped down. Let's see. I'm kind of interested in it. As far as viscosity, it actually has pretty decent viscosity to it as well. But it might have some oily richness to it. Let's see. Okay, that is very unique. As far as ryes that I've reviewed so far on this channel, it has a lot of the same flavor notes. They just present very differently. It has what I thought, kind of this creamy, rounded mouthfeel, and it starts out that way, which is awesome. The flavor is still going right now, which is also awesome. So it kind of coats your tongue with the flavor, has this sweet creaminess to it in the very beginning, presents with some herbal and mint type notes. You pick up a little bit of the ethanol in the middle, but you kind of get this sweet candy flavor that kind of pushes through. So a sweet candied caramel maybe. creamy, herbal, sweet tea. You pick up that ethanol. When you get that ethanol, you get a little bit of a bitterness, a little bit of a black pepper bite, and a bitterness. The high proof in the whiskey dries out your tongue, and I've said that a couple of times now. So it dries out the tongue, but it also coats your tongue with that creamy mouthfeel, so that when you finish, you kind of finish on this sweet. Like if you've ever had a horehound, it's a type of hard candy. It's a black licorice flavored candy, but it has more sugary sweetness than licorice, than like the licorice chunks do, or like Mike and Ike's or whatever. Like it just has a it has. If you've ever had one, you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, it has kind of that hard candy sweetness following through the little bit of barrel spice and black pepper on the finish. It's actually really, really nice, very well balanced and put together. The ethanol is not dominating the flavor profile at all. You pick up little bits of it here and there. You get a little bit of heat, but not burn in your mouth and throat. In your chest, you get a warming sensation. It warms up, but it doesn't burn. There's no harshness to it. Very well rounded. Um, and it sticks with that creaminess all the way out till you hit that black pepper and barrel tannin note on the very end of the flavor profile. So, wow, this is a really, really good rye. And I mean, hopefully by now you guys are starting to pick out why I get so excited about rye. So just like bourbon, you have this very centric, standard flavor profile, and then outside of that, the direction you can take things is very, very, very interesting. You can do everything from like 100% malted rye to just a standard 100% rye, to the way that you barrel and age it. I mean, you can get like super, super sweet vanilla caramel flavors, and that's it. You can get these herbal classic notes. Um, you can do something that has a very high barrel oak and char flavor to it. I just get really excited about the different directions that you can take rye, and releases like this are one of the reasons why. Because it doesn't just shoot straight down the middle. It's not weird and funky and like way left field, but it's just different. So go ahead. I would say it's definitely worth the $30.29 that I paid for it. Um, as far as rise, this is going to be, for me, this is definitely a nice, easy sipper. This, like a pour like this, would last me, a good half hour, 45 minutes, just slowly picking it apart and enjoying it. Conversational whiskey, I guess you'd say. Pour it with a good friend, sit down and have a conversation about life. That's kind of what this channel is about. I do my storytelling and I talk about different topics and try and help get you some information. Hopefully one of these days I'll be able to have a friend or my hunting partner or somebody on with camera with me, and it'll be more of an interview conversation type thing, and hopefully we'll have a whiskey like this for that for sure. So there you go. Knob Creek Rye. I actually like this way more than I like their bourbon. So, which I did their just one of the mini bottles of their small batch. I wasn't a huge fan of that, but this rye is definitely where it's at. So today's conversation, I may have mentioned it before, but I reload all of my own ammunition. I started doing that in 2012 because I was well, sorry, like 2015 is when I started. I started collecting components to reload in 2012 because that was kind of there was a couple mass shootings and Obama was talking smart about taking away guns and blah blah blah, and so there was a mad rush on guns, and all of 2012 and 13 and 14, it was very, very difficult to find powder and bullets and primers and all the stuff you need, all the components you need to reload. And it was all the way up until 2015 before I was actually able to get what I needed to start reloading. And so I decided that at that point I was going to reload and make certain that I was never without bullets again. And so leading into this 2020 election, and with all the riots that went on this summer and all the BS that's still going on, and the uncertainty of our elections and who's going to be president and what's going on, I know this year a lot of guns and ammunition have been sold once again. And so, I just like to make sure that I can reload and have ammo on hand. So I have all the components I need to reload for all the weapons that I own, whether it's shotgun, rifle, pistol. I got 9mm, 357. I got 30-06, 25-06, 308, 7mm 223, 12 gauge, 20 gauge. Pretty much every weapon I got, I make sure I got what I need. But this conversation is going to be about just my 30-06 loads, or at least I'll use those as my example. And I am currently in the process of switching from. I shoot Nozzler products. I like their products a lot. I have a place where I can get them for 50% off, really cheap. I get 50 bullets of the Nozzler partitions, which is still kind of the gold standard of like elk hunting rounds. It's a soft point bullet, but it has a solid, the way that it's partitioned off, the base of it stays solid, so it really drives around home. But I'm switching from that lead-based bullet to the Nozzler E-tip, which is a solid copper bullet. So it's pretty similar to the Barnes XXX or the TTSX, where it's a plastic-tipped copper bullet. The standard Barnes TSX is a hollow point copper bullet. Kind of the gold standard of copper bullets. And the reason why I'm switching is because I've watched a lot of different studies. Now, I'm not terrified of lead. In fact, this year I'm going to be shooting lead because I have not gone to the bench at all and worked up the load yet for the copper bullets that I want. I have them loaded so I can go chrono them and test them and everything, but I have not shot them, so I have no idea what they're doing. I do have a load worked up that shoots really, really well. I can shoot about a 1/2-inch group out of my 30-06 with the Nozzler partition, shooting 57 grains of H4350. I got a 3.29-inch OAL, and I have not chronoed them at all. But ballistically, if I do the calculations and stuff, and according to the book, it says it's 2,700 feet per second. I gotta believe that that's pretty close to accurate, plus or minus, because ballistically it holds true out to 500 yards. So the Nozzler partition has a BC of 0.474, which not horrible, and that's an 180 grain Nozzler partition. So here's what that round looks like, and it's what I am going to be using this year to finish out my elk season and deer season. If I shoot my 30-06 for deer, because I have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 36 rounds of loaded ammunition already. I'm going to go sight in again with that product, with that bullet. And last time I was able to shoot, like I said, a 1/2-inch group with that, which, most guns are sub MOA at this point out of the box. My 30-06, I spent a lot of time and energy trying to make a load because I couldn't get to shoot. Turns out it was the bedding and how the stock fit the barreled action. The screw for the sling has actually been screwed through the stock, the laminate stock that it came with, and the barrel was resonating off that screw when I'd shoot, and it was throwing my shots all over the place. So although you had a free floating barrel, it still was making contact. I couldn't get better than a 3-inch group no matter what I did. I went through a lot of frustration with that gun trying to get it, so I ended up buying a new stock, and magic. I mean, instantly it just boom was right there. So got this load to shoot really, really well. So then I started to look at the whole copper thing. So lead in meat. I watched some studies, or I looked at some studies, read some data about it. So you got the lead that's in the environment then, and how that's impacting predatory birds like eagles or ravens, other animals. So because their body size is smaller, if they're eating the entrails, if they're eating meat that is that contains lead, it's giving them lead poisoning, right? So it's not the best environmentally. It is extremely effective in killing and energy transfer. So how a bullet operates is when it hits whatever it's going to do, the mushroom effect of that bullet is transferring all the energy from the weight and velocity of that bullet into the animal, and it's creating a shockwave. So yes, as it mushrooms out, it's ripping apart flesh and whatever else, but it's really the shock wave that's going through the animal's vitals that's killing the animal. Unlike an arrow, which an arrow with sharp blades is just cutting through and it just creates a laceration all the way through. And so you really want the clean pass through, the penetration of an arrow, and that's what's killing the animal is it's bleeding out essentially. Whereas with a bullet, it's blunt force, the trauma that it creates that's killing the animal. And so lead's really good at that because that bullet kind of fragments out and deteriorates and mushrooms really easily. The energy is transferred very well. The problem with copper is that the energy transfer, it doesn't mushroom out because it's a much harder metal. And so they did things so like this Nosler E-tip has this plastic tip on it. Hopefully you can see it. It's a green plastic tip. That plastic tip is inserted into a hollow point bullet. So this is a hollow point, and the purpose of that hollow point and then this plastic tip is as this tip goes into an animal, the plastic tip is rammed into the hollow point of the metal, the copper bullet, and it creates that mushroom effect in the bullet. It upsets the front of that. And so you get a higher ballistics coefficient. The copper is a little bit slipperier going through the air, plus the sectional density of the bullet. It's a lot longer because copper is lighter than lead. So the sectional density is actually a little bit lower, but you just got a really high ballistics coefficient bullet. So at longer ranges, your bullet's not dropping as hard, as fast. So it's a little bit more accurate from that standpoint. But you're not getting lead in the meat. So the meat that you're consuming. So if you watch some of the X-ray videos of bloodshot meat, you'll see that a bullet will send lead fragments out into an area about this big. Even if the bullet retains most of its weight, so it retains most of the lead, there's still microscopic chunks out everywhere, which, for an animal our human size is not as bad of a deal to eat small fragments of lead. It's not good for you, but it's not going to kill you. But you're not putting that lead in the environment then for other animals to eat, and you're not poisoning other animals, which with a smaller body size, it's more toxic for them. So copper is non-toxic, and the newer bullets seem to be just as lethal. So I'm shooting these Nosler E-tips with different, so I got my loads worked up here. I got from 52 to 54.5 grains of H4350 for my powder charge. Again, they're at 3.29 inches overall length. And from what I found on my loading data, there's not a lot of great loading data for this, but from what I found on forums and stuff, they say to use the mid-level mark of powder charge as your max. So that's why I only got a small number of powder charges. So same grain bullet as the Nosler Partition, which I'm shooting 57 grains. Here I'm only shooting at a maximum 54.5. Now I will check to see if the stamp is starting to wear or if I'm showing any signs of pressure. The one thing that's the limiting factor on this, because that bullet is longer, you have more bearing surface as the bullet's traveling down the barrel, and that bearing surface creates friction, and friction builds up pressure. So you could pressure out at a lot lower powder charge than you can if you're shooting just a jacketed bullet. And so we'll see how this chronos out and what it does. But I just wanted to put that out there and say, hey, switching to copper bullets, I'm doing the same for my 25-06. I just bought some 167 grain E-tips for 308. I bought 141 or 42 grain E-tips for 7mm08. And then I got 100 grain E-tips for my 25-06. I just have not had the time to go chrono and sit at the bench and work up the loads properly. I just loaded a bunch of the ammo up to that midway point, and we'll see what it does. So I'll report back to you once I get some numbers put to that. But those are my thoughts and philosophies on copper versus lead bullets. And beginning part of the video was Knob Creek, their rye 100 proof. It's a really great rye. I hope you get out and give it a try if you're a rye fan. Even if you're not, this might be a good one just to explore as something different. At $30.29, you are not breaking the bank. It is a good rye. Please drop in the comments below what you can find a bottle of Knob Creek Rye for in your area. Like and subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel. If you really enjoy this video, please share it on Facebook or some of the other social media sites with friends and family if you think they would enjoy it as well, and help me grow this channel. Thanks for watching as always, and I will catch you in the next video.